shadow coming from.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of Go Talk with Marcus, presented by the Give Us a Shot Network. This is going to be a long show. I'm just telling you now, it's going to be a long show. There's a lot to talk about. Ja Morant has been suspended. Bradley Beal is headed to Phoenix. And at some point tonight, I'm going to remind all of you who Kevin Durant is, because clearly we've forgotten just who Kevin Durant is. Plus, CP3 was just traded to the Warriors, of all places. Kristaps Porzingis has been traded to the Boston Celtics, which means that Marcus Smart is in Memphis. There's so much to talk about in the draft. The NBA draft starts in 24 minutes. Victor's going number 1. Scoot's going number 2. Brandon Miller's going number 3. Maybe Dame wants out. Draymond opted out. There's a lot to talk about. There's so much to unpack. Justin Marville was here with us to break it all down. Stay tuned. Next.
Give them a shot to do what?
Justin Marville, what's up, man? How you doing?
I feel like intimidated by everything you just said there. Like, good gosh, feel like your intro was worth an entire show. Like, are we gonna do a second one now?
It's gonna feel like 2 shows. We're probably gonna push 90 minutes tonight, maybe more. So,
I'm thinking 2 hours probably.
Hey, we could go 2. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to start with the oldest bit of news that just happened last week. With all the stuff that's happened, it feels like old news at this point. Ja Morant has been suspended for 25 games as a result of yet another incident of him showing a gun on Instagram Live. Justin, is 25 games enough?
Yes and no. So let's start with the yes. For an incident like this, I guess the reason that's only 25 games is, as your legal comrade, Don, would tell you, it's precedent. And I'm not sure if there's any precedent like this. I think there was one close to, Javaris Crittenton, but that's a situation that you're threatening Gilbert Arenas with guns in your locker room. So that's a bit different. So there's not a lot of precedent here, and anything beyond 30 games, the Players Association would have said that may be too much. I think they're already upset that it's getting 25 games. No, from my personal point of view, and not just for the actual incident itself, but my problem is twofold. Like, one, you are a quick repeat offender. Like, this is less than 3 months ago that you were in front of the commissioner for the same situation. And so, like, it being such a quick turnaround, being a repeat offender, like a repeat offense, like, I would have hit him harder. But the second reason I would have given him at least a half a season is because the lack of contrition. It's like you are showing zero remorse for your actions. So forget the actual act itself. You went on ESPN with Jalen Rose and said you were quick to show who Ja Morant is. You sat in front of the commissioner and apologized and told the commissioner you want to show who the real Ja Morant is. And you released this phony statement saying you want to show contrition and show the world who the real Ja Morant is. And like, you've done this in quick succession. And you were so proud to do this. And not just proud, Marcus. My big problem is you're stupid. You didn't need, like, if you own a gun, that's on you. That's fine. I have no problem with you owning a gun. If you want to brandish your gun in public, that's fine. The world did not have to know that you're publicly brandishing your gun. Had you not just turned on it, had you not put this on Instagram Live, no one would have been any the wiser, and we would not be here. But the stupidity, the lack of contrition, and the quick nature of you being a repeat offender is why it would have slapped you with at least a half year suspension.
Here's the thing. I think 25 games is enough. When you think, and here's why I think 25 games is enough. John Morant signed a contract, an extension this past offseason. It was a 5-year extension. He signed it. That 5-year extension was a 5-year, $192 million deal, right? If you're suspended 25 games and he makes about, I think it's $304,000 a game, so he's going to miss out on $7.6 million because he's being suspended without pay. So he's missing out on $7.6 million this year. Here's the other thing, though, that's super, super important. The new CBA, which kicks into effect, the new collective bargaining agreement, which starts this season, the 2023-24 season, you now have to play at least 25 games to be on an all-NBA team, first, second, or third, to be on an all-defensive team, first or second, to be an MVP, to be a Rookie of the Year, to be Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, any of that stuff. So by not playing 25 games, at most, John Morant can play 57 games, which means that John Morant is not eligible to be an MVP. He can't be an he can't be an all-league player as an he can't be an all-league player. He can't be an all-league defender. As we all know, players have in their contracts incentives for hitting certain point totals, for hitting certain free throw totals, for getting a certain percentage of shots made, for making an all-league first, second, or third team, for making an all-defensive team, depending on where you finish in voting for certain places, depending on where you rank amongst eligible shooters and all these other nuances, things that exist in John Morant's contract. John Morant is leaving millions and millions and millions of dollars on the table because of the fact that he can only play at most 57 games this season, so he can't be on an all-NBA team. He can't be on an all-defensive team. He can't win MVP. He can't be Defensive Player of the Year. He can't win any of these things. More money being left on the table. So while I understand the argument that he should have been that it should have been at least half a season, as you said, the NBA PA wouldn't have gone for anything over 30. They weren't that happy with 25. At least he would have been suspended for 17. Really 18, because 18 games means he'll play 64 and he won't be on these teams. So I think he would have been suspended for at least 18. 25 is just a nice round number of games to be suspended for. It's not like 18 is a weird number. So 25 is a nice number. He can't be on any of these teams. And hopefully he'll learn his lesson. But if this happens again, John Morant is out the league. Like, he doesn't get a third chance to do this because, as you mentioned, this was only like a 3-month turnaround. He sat in the commissioner's face. He got on NBA with Jalen Rose. He said he learned his mistake. He learned from his mistakes, and then he turned back right around less than 3 months later, did the exact same thing. He gives another statement. I apologize to the kids who look up to me as a role model. We have gotten to the point now with John Morant, and I said this last Friday when it was announced. I'm going to say it again. We have gotten to the point at this point with John Morant where his words mean nothing to us. It's not that we don't believe him. It's not that he doesn't mean what he's saying. But when you issue an apology and less than 3 months later do the exact same thing, you cannot issue the exact same apology and think they're going to believe you. You cannot issue the exact same apology and think that all is going to be forgiven. We are now looking at John Morant's actions. John Morant now needs to be a man of action and not a man of words, because apologizing to the kids, apologizing to the commissioner, apologizing to the league, apologizing to your teammates, apologizing to your fans, apologizing to the team now means nothing, because the first time you did it, we believed you. And the second time around, that's unacceptable. You've done it again. There's an old saying, fool me once. What is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Something like that. However it goes, you're not going to fool us twice, Ja. You have to now prove that you mean what you say. These 25 games, he's missing $7.6 million. He's going to leave a lot more millions of dollars on the table because of these incentives he won't be getting, because he's not going to be making all these all-league teams like that. I think 25 games is the perfect amount. If it happens again, Ja's done. We won't see John Morant on an NBA basketball floor ever if this happens again.
I agree with everything you're saying. It's just one point in terms of the money. Remember last season, because he missed those games, he missed out on an all NBA team. And I'm sure that if he had not being suspended, he would have at least been on a second or third All-NBA team. And because of that, he was unable to push that extension to 220-something million, which would have been like 40 million he lost out. So I say that to say, if $40 million was not enough for you to avoid doing this nonsense, I don't think financial incentive is not. And again, I agree with you. He's not going to be able to make all NBA teams, MVP, all that stuff next season. He's not going to get any individual accolades. But clearly, money, the loss of finances is not enough to keep Ja Morant straight, because Dwayne could tell you, if I lost out on $40 million for the first time for doing nonsense, I can bet you I'm not going back and be caught doing the same exact thing less than 3 months later.
That's fair. That's fair. I agree with that. But maybe that's because, Justin, maybe that's because we are upper class citizens. We don't know what it's like to lose. We know what it's like to have $40 million, let alone lose it. Let's talk about another big money man. Bradley Beal has officially, as of a couple hours ago, has officially been traded to the Phoenix Suns. There's a lot to talk about, but here's the thing that we got to announce. They got to talk about before we actually get into whether this is a good move or not. Right now, the Phoenix Suns are over the cap, and they have 6 or 7 players on the roster. Just Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and DeAndre Ayton alone, 4 of their starting 5, is worth $163 million. Justin, does Bradley Beal make the Phoenix Suns, your Phoenix Suns, a championship caliber basketball team heading into the 23-24 season?
Not with the roster currently constructed. So I've seen people not Phoenix for the trade, which is crazy. Like, if all you're giving up is second round picks and a 38-year-old point guard that you were intended to waive anyway, and Landry Shamet, who again was no part of your future going forward, and if that's all you're going to do to give up to get Bradley Beal, then obviously you made the trade. But to answer your question, no, the trade by itself does not immediately vault Phoenix into the conversation with Denver, simply because obviously, as you said, like, without the rest of the roster, we are already into luxury tax threshold. It will when there is one more move to be made. And this is no longer from a personal bias. No, I'm sure we've all heard the news. At some point, Phoenix will move on from DeAndre Ayton this offseason. Like, I don't think that's any secret. I think everyone can see the writing on the wall, whether it's reports, whether it is, DeAndre Ayton's, attitude towards Phoenix management, and whether it's, I told my friends, right, when DeAndre Ayton checked out in Game 5 and then reportedly had a rib injury and did not play Game 6, I told them Game 5 was DeAndre Ayton's last in a Phoenix uniform, even with Monty Williams gone, simply because you don't build on your teammates in an elimination game, especially the likes of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Devin Booker especially. Yeah, you could see that DeAndre Ayton is no lost in that locker room. Like, that locker room is not going to accept him back. The players are done with him. And I've gone on this show, on my show, I've gone over all of the reasons why DeAndre Ayton should not be playing in Phoenix anymore. I suspect that the Suns, whether it's with Atlanta, whether it's with Dallas, whether it is with Indiana, they're going to trade him for a defensive-minded center. You're going to get cents on the dollar back in this trade. You're not going to get equal value. So they're going to trade him for a defensive-minded center and probably 1 or 2 rotational pieces. And after that, then I will say, Dwayne, that this team is a championship contender. I will not vault them above Denver. Like, Denver is still the class of the conference without a shadow of a doubt. But when they move on from DeAndre Ayton, get additional depth, and answer the biggest question that they have in terms of protecting the rim and being better defensive-minded, then yes, I will say Bradley Beal's trade vaults him into contention status. But as the roster is right now, then no.
I agree. I love Bradley Beal. I'm glad that Bradley Beal has finally been emancipated from the disgustingness that is the Washington Wizards and all that has to offer. I'm glad that he's able to go play with two players the caliber of Kevin Durant. I have nothing left really to add. I wish I did, but when you bring a Phoenix Suns fan onto the show, talking about the Phoenix Suns becomes pointless if you're not the Phoenix Suns fan. What we are going to talk about, and what I have a lot to say about, is the discourse around Kevin Durant. We're coming up on, we are, ironically enough, just looking at the date, we are less than 2 months away from 3 years of GOAT Talk with Marcus. And it's been an amazing ride. The discourse surrounding Kevin Durant over the last 3 years, really over the last 6, has been disgusting. It's been nauseating, and it's been downright disrespectful. The things that people in the national media, the things that people on Twitter, the things that people on TikTok and on Instagram have to say about Kevin Durant. And I got to be honest, I'm getting kind of sick of it because I don't know what else there is to do. Like, I feel like we've forgotten who Kevin Durant is as a basketball player. So, Justin, before I go on my rant, I want to ask you this question. Let's say we fill this roster out, right? Let's say the Suns fill this roster out and they get that defensive-minded center and they get some role players. And let's say Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns, come season's end, are your NBA champions. What does that do, if anything, for the legacy of Kevin Durant if the Suns are champions?
For me, nothing. Simply because I don't follow the discourse that everyone else has in terms of, like, for me, he's already solidified himself as a top 15 player, top 20 at the very worst, top 15. You've heard me say this before. So I don't think a title, because I'll say this, whether Kevin Durant wins a title or not, like, if that has to change your mind, then your mind is not going to be changed, if you understand what I'm saying. If you don't like Kevin Durant now, or you don't believe he's an all-time great top 15 player, then another title is not going to change your mind. You're going to find an excuse. Just like those who don't like LeBron James, if LeBron James wins a 5th and 6th title and ties Michael Jordan, and you already don't think that LeBron James is the greatest player, and I'm not saying he is, sure, those titles are not going to change your mind. And I say that for some of you and me who believe in Kevin Durant's legacy. If Kevin Durant wins the title, it doesn't change our mind because we already had that, we already had that belief. So for me, I don't think it sounds weird. It's not going to change the mind of somebody who does not like Kevin Durant. For me, obviously, it legitimizes his career, but you already have 2 titles, 2 finals MVPs prior to this. You are, top 10 all time, or you're going to definitely finish top 10 all time scoring. You have a league MVP, countless All-Star appearances, countless All-NBA appearances. For me personally, I already know what Kevin Durant is, and at the very worst, it's a top 15 of all-time players. So sorry, Dwayne, I don't know if you're what you're looking for here, but a title does not change my mind about who Kevin Durant is. Just like another title for Steph Curry and LeBron James doesn't really do anything for me because I know what they are, know where they are already. But just for me, that's further cement the all-time great career that I have. But this is your segment, so I'm not going to take any more shine from you here. Go right ahead.
We need to, first of all, the narrative surrounding Kevin Durant is disgusting. It's nasty. It's nasty. Let me tell you the story of Kevin Durant over the last, what are we talking? He'll be entering his 16th season next season. This is a guy who's a former Rookie of the Year. This is a guy who was on the All-Rookie team, obviously. He's a 13-time All-Star. He has made, what are we talking? I think 13 All-NBA selections total. A 4-time scoring champion. He averages 27.3 points per game, which, hold the phone, is the 2nd highest ever, behind only the great Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And we want to sit here and we want to act like Kevin Durant's career means nothing because of what happened in Golden State. Let's talk about what happened in Golden State. Let's talk about the fact that people want to say, oh, well, Kevin Durant wasn't the bus driver in Golden State. Really? Really? You think so? Who do you think averaged more points per game in the playoffs in Golden State? Steph Curry or Kevin Durant? If you think Steph Curry, you're wrong. It's KD. KD averaged almost 30 points per game in the playoff run during his time in KD. For all you advanced stat nerds out there, he had a higher value over replacement player, had a higher box plus or minus. Here's a crazy thing for you. He shot over the course of his career in Golden State in the playoffs. He shot better from three than the greatest three-point shooter of all time. Now, granted, it's by 0.1%, but still, he shot better from three. He was more efficient from two. He was more efficient overall than the greatest shooter in the history of basketball. And we want to sit here and act like Kevin Durant's career means nothing because of what happened in Golden State. Then we say, oh, well, KD went to Brooklyn. No one made KD go to Brooklyn. You're wrong. The fans made KD go to Brooklyn. Because what's the first thing anyone said about KD when he first left OKC to go to Golden State? Oh, well, the league's not fair, and any championship he wins means absolutely nothing because it's a super team. So what do you hear when you're a guy who cares about basketball the way that Kevin Durant does? When you are the hooper, the level of player that Kevin Durant is, you want to prove a point. So I'm going to go somewhere else, and I'm going to go win a championship there. Now, you want to sit here? Look, Justin's done it. I've done it. We've all done it. We've all made bad choices. We have all picked. Let me speak for myself. I have picked a bunch of bad friends in life. Okay, there are a lot of people in my life that I thought were my friends. They were not. Okay, they did not have my back when I needed them to have my back. Fine, it's a lesson learned. It's a part of life. Kevin Durant, unfortunately, in his 3 years in Brooklyn, learned that lesson. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing about KD's 3 years in Brooklyn that we never want to talk about. Let's talk about the fact that in his 3 years in Brooklyn, KD averaged 29 points per game, which is 3.2 points clear of what he averaged in Golden State. It's just about 2 points clear of his career average. Let's talk about the fact that even in his 9 seasons in OKC, he averaged more points in OKC than he did in his 3 years in Golden State. We sit here and we want to say, oh, Golden State made KD. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. KD's 3 seasons in Brooklyn, statistically, in any metric, you could argue almost definitively are the greatest 3-year stretch of his career personally. Okay. What did Curry do in Golden State that KD didn't do? Not win Finals MVP. He had the same amount of All NBA selections. They had the same amount of All Star selections. They had the same amount of MVPs. 0. Like, they did everything. The only thing that Steph did in Golden State that KD didn't do was not win Finals MVP. KD has 2 of them. We sit here and we act like KD is this nothing human being. He's a garbage basketball player. He's nothing without Steph Curry. If you take away the 3 seasons of Golden State and you just look at the 12 years that we have to look at, or 16 years we have to look at for Kevin Durant outside of Golden State, guess what? He's still a Hall of Famer. He's still a top 20 player all time. And we sit here and we act like Kevin Durant is nothing. We sit here and we act like a championship in Phoenix is what KD needs to solidify his status. Who do we think we are as fans? Like, we can't have it both ways. We can't sit here and praise guys like Jordan and praise guys like Kobe and praise guys like Dirk for sticking with it and only winning it with one team, but at the same time, we want to slander KD. We want to slander LeBron. We want to slander all these other players that went other places to win multiple championships. You know who we don't treat this way? We don't belittle the championships that Kareem won in LA because he wasn't drafted by the Lakers. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't belittle we don't treat what Scottie Pippen did outside of Chicago any less because he didn't win a championship outside of Chicago. We don't do that. We do not treat some of these all-time great players. We do not treat Robert Horry like he's a garbage basketball player because he has 7 championships with multiple different franchises. We don't do that. We don't treat Steve Kerr like he's less than a basketball player because he has championships in Chicago and in San Antonio. We don't treat Kawhi Leonard differently because he has championships in Toronto and San Antonio. But for some reason, we look at Kevin Durant and say, your rings don't matter and your career doesn't matter because you didn't do it in OKC. Bro, so what? Like he went to the finals in 2012 against prime LeBron James and lost to prime LeBron James. Losing to LeBron James in that era, in the early 2010s, bro, you might as well win a gold medal at that point. Oh, and by the way, speaking of gold medals, guess who's the greatest scorer in the history of Olympic basketball for America? Kevin Durant. Stop acting like Kevin Durant is this bum, like he was some random on the street that Steph Curry had to go out there and rescue. He's not Jordan Poole, okay? He's not Gary Payton II, okay? He's not Harrison Barnes. He's not any of these. He's not Andrew Bogut. He's not Zaza Pachulia. He's not any of these other randoms well, Harrison Barnes isn't a random, but I mean, he kind of is at the same time. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is Kevin Durant was, and will forever be who he is. And until we can get out of our feelings and recognize the greatness of Kevin Durant, we'll never be satisfied. We'll never be satisfied. Because here's the thing. You know what would have happened if KD stayed in OKC and never won a ring? We would treat him the same way we treat CP3. We treat him the same way we treat Russell Westbrook. We treat him the same way we treat Damian Lillard. We treat him the same way we treat Bradley Beal. His career means nothing because he didn't win a ring. He needs to leave. He leaves, gets two of them things. Not one, he gets two, and it's not enough. Stop it. At some point, we need to sit down within ourselves as fans and appreciate the greatness of Kevin Durant. We need to sit down and recognize that Kevin Durant is one of the greatest players to ever step foot on a basketball court. He's one of the greatest scorers, if not the greatest scorer. One of the greatest scorers the game has ever seen. One of the most lethal scorers the game has ever seen. One of the most efficient scorers the game has ever seen. And he is one of very few players in the history of basketball that can play in any system, in any team, in any era, and still be who he is. Let's not also forget the fact that he popped his Achilles, came back from the Achilles injury, and averaged more points after the Achilles injury than he did before it. But we don't want to talk about that because Kevin Durant won 2 championships in Golden State, and it's not enough. Are we being serious here? Are we really, is this what we're doing? This what we're doing? We're going to slander KD because he hasn't won in Brooklyn? Let's talk about what happened when he got to Brooklyn. He spent 3 seasons in Brooklyn. Oh, wait, he actually spent 2 seasons in Brooklyn because the first season in Brooklyn, he didn't play because he didn't have an Achilles. Then he gets to the second season. He single-handedly, by himself, takes the Milwaukee Bucks to a Game 7. By himself, posted arguably 2 of the greatest back-to-back playoff games we've ever seen. A 50-burger in game 6 and a 48-piece in Game 7. Oh, well, he went 0 for in overtime. He's playing out there by himself. He's playing 5-on-1 basketball. And if his foot wasn't so gosh darn big, he probably would have beat him. Oh, wait, but let me remember. Despite all this stuff that happened with Brooklyn, between Kevin Durant, between Kyrie Irving, between James Harden, between Ben Simmons, you turn on ESPN and who they have winning the championship. Oh, the Brooklyn Nets. You turn on Fox Sports and who they have winning the championship. Oh, the Brooklyn Nets. Because what does Stephen A say every year? Oh, well, if Kyrie Irving plays basketball and if Ben Simmons is healthy, the Brooklyn Nets can come out of the East. Oh, that's what we did. You go to Vegas at the beginning of each of these seasons. Who were some of the betting? Who at the top of the betting odds? The Brooklyn Nets. It didn't matter what Golden State was doing. It didn't matter what the Lakers were doing. It didn't matter what the Bucks were doing. It didn't matter what the Heat were doing. It didn't matter what the Suns were doing. So we sit here and we want to shame Brooklyn. We want to sit here and say, oh, the Brooklyn Nets one of the greatest failures in the history of basketball. Not the greatest failure in the history of basketball. But every single season, we as a community, as an NBA fandom, we sat there and we thought the Brooklyn Nets could win it all. When the Brooklyn Nets were the 7th seed in the play-in, we said, Brooklyn Nets, boy, they're the best team in the play-in, boy. Don't let them get to them playoffs. Then they get swept when they go like the slander and Kevin. Like, we can't have it both ways, man. We can't do that. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. Kevin Durant is a fantastic basketball player. If he showed up to you right now, he's dropping 100 on you. I promise. He shows up to your gym in your high school, your middle school. He showed up to the Y. He's dropping 100. I promise you. So we need to stop. We need to sit here and we need to respect the greatness of Kevin Durant. We need to sit here and stop treating KD like he is less than a basketball player. Because if he dies tomorrow, he's in the Hall of Fame. And if I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it 1,000 times. If Kevin Durant has no fans tomorrow, it means Dwayne Marcus Jr., host of Go Talk with Marcus, is no longer alive on this planet. Because if there's one person I'll defend, like my life depends on it, it's Kevin Durant. We're going to stop disrespecting Kevin Durant, and we're going to treat Kevin Durant like the legendary player that he is. You got bozos on other podcasts last summer sitting here talking about some Kevin Durant isn't legendary. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Kevin Durant is your favorite player's favorite player. Let's be 100% honest. Kevin Durant is your favorite player's favorite player. And if you were to create a basketball player from top to bottom, and you wanted to create one of the most unstoppable players in the history of basketball, once you get past Shaq, once you get past LeBron, prime LeBron, once you get past Jordan, I don't know definitively if there's a player that you could undeniably, without question, as far as being unstoppable, put over KD. I'm not saying he's greater than a Kobe. I'm not saying he's greater than a Kareem. I'm not saying he's greater than a Wilt. What I am saying is, well, Kareem had the skyhook, and the skyhook was pretty unstoppable. So we'll put Kareem on that list too. But the fact of the matter is, Kevin Durant is not just one of the greatest players in the history of basketball. He's not just one of the most talented, one of the most efficient scorers in the history of basketball. He is downright one of the most unstoppable players in the history of basketball. And we sit here and we act like he was a nobody for 9 years in OKC before we got to Golden State, and all of a sudden his career resurrected, and now he's this guy. No, he won 4 scoring titles, none of them in Golden State. He won an MVP in OKC. He was a rookie of the year. He was an all-rookie team. He is one of the greatest players ever, and you need to put some respect on his name, because if not, then you just don't know ball. And if you want to live in a world where you don't know basketball, if you want to live in a world where Kevin Durant's some bum, you can do that. But just know that you're the bum. You're the idiot. You're the doofus, and you need to go get an IDT 10 form, because clearly you don't know basketball. If you sit here and tell me that Kevin Durant means nothing and his career means nothing because he hasn't won a ring outside of Golden State. We don't sit here and complain about some of these other players that haven't won rings outside of certain places. We don't do that. Harrison Barnes hasn't won a ring outside of Golden State. Is he a bum? Is he? If Draymond Green never wins another ring, is he a bum? If AD never wins another ring, is he a bum? If LeBron James never wins another ring, is he a bum? If Steph Curry never wins another ring, goes to another team, is he a bum? No, he's not. But KD's a bum, because we didn't like that 7 years ago. He made a business decision to go win a championship elsewhere. Get out of here with that, bro.
All I want to say is I want to have my cake and eat it too with my championship champagne come next year, June. That's all I'm saying. Like, if I want your guy, KD, to be that guy to give me that cake.
The Golden State Warriors, bro. The Phoenix Suns better not win the champion. Bro. If the Phoenix Suns win the NBA Finals next season, prepare to be sick of me.
You think you're going to act a fool more than me? I'm waiting my entire life for the Phoenix Suns to win a championship.
Because let's get something. I don't know who it was. I watched some buffoon on TV say, oh, well, if the Suns win the championship, it won't be because of KD. It'll be because of Devin Booker. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind?
I'd like to say because of both of them. I'm just saying. They're all players.
Is hands down the best player on this basketball team. And if you sit here for one single solitary second and try to convince yourself or anybody else that anyone other than Kevin Durant will be the driving force of any championship team in 2023, the year of our Lord 2023 in the desert in Phoenix, you're insane. You are clinically insane. We need to check you. You're the one. You're the one that flew over the cuckoo's nest.
It's not me. I just want my championship parade.
KD is better. It wouldn't be the driving force in the championship in Phoenix. You're the one that flew over the cuckoo's nest. You need a psychiatric evaluation. We need to put you in a straitjacket in one of those rooms with the padding on the walls and no TV. You can just hear nothing but your thoughts. Because they don't, bro. I can't, bro.
I'll tell you no.
Bro.
If you think you're gonna act a fool,
bro.
Trust and believe.
No.
Anyhow, these Phoenix Suns win a title.
Let the Phoenix Suns win a championship next year. I promise you, this time next year, I'm moving to Phoenix. I'll be in Phoenix for a month. You better hope to. You better pray to whatever God you believe in. The Phoenix Suns don't win a championship next season, because if they do. Every single, and I got a list. I'm not going to call y'all out right now, but there's a list of people, some of whom have been on this show, in that seat that Justin's in right now, and has slandered the name of Kevin Durant. Now, I usually go full name when I get like this, but I'm not going to put KD full name out there like that. But just know, I'm coming for y'all. A couple of y'all done been on this pod before. Y'all got a pod of y'all own. We might need to get y'all podcast card revoked. I don't know. I'm just saying. Keep talking about KD like he's a bum. What's wrong with you? Get out of here, man. Anyway, I got my blood pressure all up. Let's talk about something else. We were going to be talking about a potential reunion in LA with Chris Paul, but
Nope.
Well, the Golden State Warriors the Golden State Warriors had other plans. Now we're talking about Chris Paul in the Bay. Justin, if you had to get a letter grade, and I know you're from Barbados and you guys don't do letters there, but if you had to get a letter grade for this trade, what would you grade this trade for the Warriors?
I'm not a Jordan Poole fan, so it's going to be higher than what it probably should be. I'd probably say like a C. Like, you have to move on from Jordan Poole, and not because of the beef between him and Draymond Green. Like, that's not even relevant to me. You just had to move on because he's not the player that everyone thought he was. I'm not sure why they thought he was. He's a piss poor defender, only goes right, takes the worst shots possible, is not a facilitator, makes absolutely no teammate around him better, and takes shots on a team where he should not be taken when you have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Andrew Wiggins. I could go on and on and on and on. And I think the nail or the writing on the wall came that infamous shot he took, and Steph Curry took out his mouth guard and threw it on the floor in disgust and got a technical for it. Like, so Jordan Poole is so bad that he got his own teammate a technical. That's how bad Jordan Poole is, right? You had to move on from him. I just didn't think that you'd be moving on to a soon 39-year-old point guard who has a litany of health issues and playoff struggles to even be on the floor in playoffs. Like, he didn't even play the last 2 games for us in the playoffs in Phoenix. I understand the move. One, not just moving on for Jordan Poole, but 2, you needed a facilitator on that bench because, as it's known, and I didn't get the stats here for you, but we talked about it on one of my shows, Dwayne. When Steph Curry is not on the floor, whether injury or just substituted, that offense was atrocious. So you needed somebody that would be able to connect the dots, not a scorer more so than a facilitator, even though Draymond Green is really this team's primary playmaker. So I get the trade in a sense, and you just had to move on from Jordan Poole and that terrible, terrible, terrible contract. I just don't know, with championship aspirations still in the Bay, that Chris Paul is your answer, because he wasn't the answer in Phoenix, wasn't the answer in Houston, wasn't the answer in Clippers. Yeah. I could go on and on. I just don't know if that was the answer.
Real quick, as expected, Victor Wembanyama was drafted first overall by the San Antonio Spurs. No surprise there. I 100% agree. This is a terrible trade for the Warriors. I don't know how you can make this work. When you look at the pace of play specifically, and this is one of the things that we talked about when it came to why he shouldn't have been in Phoenix anymore. The Warriors push the tempo, and the Warriors like to run. They've got a lot of 3-and-D guys. They got a lot of young guys, and they like to push that floor, and Steph Curry likes to push the pace as well. Chris Paul ain't pushing no pace nowhere. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand. Okay, let me. Okay, I understand why you do it. I understand why you make this move. You make a move like this because it's another veteran presence for some of the young guys. Here's the issue: the Golden State Warriors have already shown us they have no interest in developing their young talent. If they did, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga would have had more minutes this season. So the veteran part of it isn't really what's happening. To your point, he's injury prone. He's 38 years old. He's not pushing anybody's pace anywhere. I understand Jordan Poole dropped a dud this offseason, but I mean, my God, man, he can't be human. He can't get another shot. We all knew Draymond Green was not coming back to Golden State this season. The writing was on the wall after he gave Jordan Poole a five knuckle shuffle in the practice, and it got posted everywhere on TMZ. I understand that. If I'm Golden State, and I'm gonna be honest and call it a hot take if you want to, if I'm Golden State and I have to pick between Draymond Green or Jordan Poole, I'm picking Jordan Poole. And it's not just because I just paid this man $200 million last season. It's because he's younger. It's because he fits in the system. It's because you can get another Draymond Green. And maybe that's what they were trying to do. Maybe Chris Paul is your other Draymond Green, except he's not nearly half the defender that Draymond Green is. Now, I know that Draymond did opt out of his contract. We'll talk about that in a second as far as what that could potentially look like, but I don't like this move. I don't. On paper, this does not make sense to me. When you look at the fit of this basketball team, how they like to push the pace, how this is and has been one of the better defenses in basketball over the past couple seasons when healthy, Chris Paul is not adding to that. So what was the purpose of trading for Chris Paul? And here's another thing too. You're trading Jordan Poole, who's a young guy. You could have gotten so much more in return than Chris Paul. Of
I think
all players, if you're trying to shop Jordan Poole, there is no way possible you're going to sit here and convince me that the best offer the Golden State Warriors got for Jordan Poole was Chris Paul and some picks. There's no way.
the problem is that Jordan Poole's market would have been low because remember, you are your last performance. And when you look at Jordan Poole over the last playoffs, it's dreadful. Like, the value would have been at an all-time low. Like, if you're going to trade Draymond, if you're going to trade Jordan Poole, it would have had to been a sign and trade last season. I get it where you're talking about his age. The reality is Golden State Warriors tried to be in that two-timeline window where they thought about developing Kuminga and Jordan Poole while still winning championships. And I can tell you, I've lived long enough to tell you, two timelines never work. So the Green Bay Packers found that out. And you just can't live in two timelines. You're either developing for the future or you're trying to win championships. And the Golden State Warriors quickly realized these young players are not ready to help them win championships. And they still think that they can win championships with Steph Curry as their best player. And if that is...
I'm going to keep off, but this is where I do want to disagree for just a second. Right?
Sorry, go ahead. But
When
sorry,
you-
go ahead. Sorry.
when you look at Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody specifically, because I'm already on record as saying that I think when you look at what happened when they won the championship with Jordan Poole benefited from Klay Thompson's absence for that extended period in the season.
Right.
By the time Klay Thompson came back, number one, he was on a minutes restriction. Number two, he still needed to be eased into things. Jordan Poole didn't necessarily lose his spot in the roster because Klay Thompson can play the three. And there were a lot of instances when he was lined up at the three. So Jordan Poole still played all those minutes. He was still in his rhythm. So even when he got pushed over to the bench, he was playing starters minutes off the bench, which is something we talk about a lot with guys like Russ Westbrook and all this other stuff. When you look at Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody specifically, when they let Gary Payton walk last season, my instant thought was, oh, that makes sense because Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, the reason why you drafted those two guys is because they're lengthy wing defenders who can play good offense and are pretty much Andrew Wiggins Jr. Like they can do all the things that Andrew Wiggins can do, just not at the level of Andrew Wiggins. And then we went this entire season and they played barely any minutes. And it's not because they weren't ready. It's because they weren't given the opportunity. It's like the first time they made a mistake, Steve Kerr snatched them out the lineup. How can you have your young guys grow that way? I personally believe if the Warriors would have given Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody the opportunity, the way that they gave Jordan Poole the opportunity, they could have flourished. Now, I know the situation is a bit different because Jordan Poole had to take the opportunity because Klay was hurt, and Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga would have just been like an altering of the rotation. But still, if Moody and Kuminga got the opportunity that Poole did, half the opportunity that Jordan Poole did, we would be talking about Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody in a much different light, and we would be looking at the Golden State Warriors potentially losing Draymond Green as not a big deal because you've got these two young guys that can play defense. Now we're going into this next season. Draymond Green's probably out the door. Jordan Poole is gone. You still got these two young guys who are now, by the way, in their third season in the NBA, and they still don't have enough exposure, and they still really haven't been developed the way that they should have been. And I think that is 100% to the fault of the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors get a lot of credit for a lot of great things, as they should. But if there's anything that we have to look at as a detriment or a demerit or a black mark on this, what has been legendary run for the Warriors, I think we're going to look back and say that the inability, unwillingness, or whatever you want to call it, to develop and help mature Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga was the reason why the Golden State Warriors championship window and dynastic run ended prematurely. Sorry.
So I like that because now we can go back and forth. Remember that Andrew Wiggins, due to the health of his father, we found out later on, was missing for a significant part of that second half of the season, and it did try both Moody and Kuminga, and it kind of failed in that, especially on the defensive side of the basketball, where I don't think Andrew Wiggins gets enough credit right now. And that was really their downfall. Their defense was atrocious. And that was when Wiggins was missing for so much. And you heard them complain. And I think that is the reason why the hook was so short where Kaminga and Moody were concerned. Remember, you said it. This iteration of the Warriors, as great as these Splash Brothers have been, a lot of it has been how good defensively they were. And the reason that they took such a huge step back this season was on that defensive end. So I think that was the reason you saw Kaminga and Moody not getting the minutes that some of us thought they may or should have gotten. And like because Jordan Poole was no longer that guy on offense. Klay Thompson was up and down all season long. Steph Curry was battling injuries, so you don't have the firepower. And then Andrew Wiggins was gone for half the year. So you don't have that firepower to beat teams. So now you have to lean towards your defense. The trust isn't there. Jordan Poole has always been a very bad defender. And then you can't then live on the mistakes with Kaminga and Moody simply because, as you know, you're battling for a playing spot. Like any given day, you may get fallen out of it. And you just had to win as many games as possible. So I think that's what kind of ended up happening. I don't think they're going to ever give up on Kaminga. You can rest assured. And I don't know if you want to
They've given up
segue.
on Moses Moody.
You know, they've given up on him, but I don't.
But that's the thing is, I think when you look at again, so and you're 100% right. Right, the leash was very short for Moody and Kaminga when Andrew Wiggins was out. But if they would have been given the opportunity to grow before then, they would have been more prepared for that situation. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you are not going. You're not if your son doesn't know how to swim, you're not just going to throw him into the Atlantic Ocean off the side of the boat and say, "Here you go." No, you'll throw him in the deep end of a pool.
Right, but I think in their case, no, and I agree with you.
Don't throw him to go swim with the sharks. I think in that situation, Moody, they didn't do great. I won't deny that. I think the reason why Moses Moody and Jonathan Kaminga didn't do so well in Wiggins' absence is because that was the Warriors throwing them in with the sharks and just seeing if they could swim. They didn't give Moody or Kaminga any time in the deep end of the pool to figure it out, to get their legs under themselves and figure things out so that in that event they could be more ready. I think if you look at it and you be more proactive as opposed to reactive in that situation, I think things pan out a bit differently, especially for Moses Moody. Jonathan Kaminga has shown he can do something, especially though for Moses Moody.
Right, but in that respect, and again, you're not wrong, but from their perspective, this is not a team that thought they had the opportunity or the leeway, it's a better word, to live with the growing pains of those young players because because remember I told you, I think that was the error. Them playing on that two-time lane situation. So from the moment that this season they told themselves, we are all in still on trying to win championships, the leash just got tighter and tighter and tighter. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. I won't say that. I will say they thought they can no longer live the mistakes, especially because, one, you didn't have the luxury of having Steph Curry in for the most of the season. He was battling injuries a lot. And so like you have to win games. And they just told themselves, we can't live with the mistakes that they're making, especially on the defensive end. Like, we got to win games. And then with Andrew Wiggins gone, like it got tighter still. Jordan Poole, the trust was gone. Draymond Green was not the defensive presence that he was. Klay Thompson is in and out of games, not playing back-to-backs, sometimes playing well, and then the other nights playing absolute trash. Like, it was just like everything happened at the worst time for this Warriors team. I'd risk to bet, right? If Steph was healthy the entire season and Andrew Wiggins didn't have the unfortunate situation with his father, like they had a complete team, I think they would have given those kids more leeway because now you have Steph, and obviously when you have Steph, your margin for error is huge. Like it's no longer the small margin for error when it comes to winning games and trying to stay in the play-in tournament. Because as much as the Warriors finished what? They finished, I want to say, where did they finish? Sixth?
They were sixth, yep.
It sounds like six, but you and I both know there were times that they were deep in that play inside the bracket. And as they themselves found out in the first year of playing, it's so easy not to make the playoffs for the play-in because they lost both to the Lakers and to the Grizzlies. I'm not saying that you're wrong, Dwayne. Like, yeah, you want to give young players more leash, but when you're in win-now mode, as the Warriors are right now, yeah, the leash for young players' mistake is.
But okay, so let's take a team. You look at it. I can't even think of a team off the top of my head that in the past.
You see, right? Because like I've always said, this young players don't win titles, so that's unfortunate. That's reality situation. Like.
It is. I don't disagree. What's up, Peyton? How you doing, bro? Whenever you want to come on the show, you give me a text. We get you on here. I don't disagree, but I think again, when you look at where they were, you've got 7 and you have 14. There was a strong consideration for me, at least in that season. There was a strong consideration. I thought that they should have figured out a way to package 7 and 14 to either go get another player or trade up in the draft. That was the LaMelo Ball draft, was it not? That was the draft that we all sat here and said, "Oh."
But that was a mistake they made, and they think they quickly realized. Oh, unfortunately, they realized it after the fact. I've said, I've been on record, not on your show. They should have drafted LaMelo Ball instead of James Wiseman, and that's where it all went wrong. They thought that James Wiseman could continue their rhythm. Like, how are you a guard-driven offense, and you have a huge 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" point guard who passes with the best of them, who pushes the tempo of the floor, who fits your offense perfectly because you don't really play Steph Curry on the ball, as we know. Steph Curry plays off of it. You're adding another playmaker that you can afford to bring off the bench, and you pick James Wiseman.
Yeah.
That was a bad pick.
It's difficult. I just, again, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I play 2K too much, and I like to give these young guys a chance. I just think, again, when you're trying to build off of one of the best defenses that we saw the Warriors have, really in the span of their run, the defense that they had in 2022, winning the championship, you can argue is the greatest defense they had in the Steph Curry era. To build off of that, I think you look at that and say, you've got these 2 young guys here. They can play offense. They're long. They can defend the 1 through the 5. Like, they can do all these things. You would think that you'd want to give them more than what they gave them. It just felt like a drop in the bucket to me. And I think looking back on it, and I don't disagree with you. I 100% agree. I do think when you try to run the 2 timelines, you can fail, and you can fail hard. But I also think you got to look at a team like the Boston Celtics, who they haven't won a championship yet, but they ran 2 timelines. They wanted to win a championship, but they won that. They got into championship form by developing their young guys. Who were their young guys? Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And look at who they are now and what they do for that basketball team. So, and of course, that's a completely different scenario because Boston is admittedly a much more better run organization than the Golden State Warriors are, as far as just lengthwise. Like that, they've always been a generally, they've got garbage fans, but the organization has always been run really, really well. And it's not that the Warriors haven't been, but like you look at a team like the Celtics, a team that they had to beat last year in the finals, like that was, they wanted to win now, which was why they went and got a Kyrie Irving, but they also wanted to develop their 2 young guys, who was Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Obviously, Kyrie's no longer there, but that development led to them being in the finals. I think you could have had a similar thing in Golden State. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just have a soft spot for young guys, but I do think that Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody deserved a lot more of a chance than what they got. I alluded to it earlier. Let's kind of dive into this a little bit more. Draymond Green opted out of his player option. And we see players opt out all the time, and it ends up just them going back either on a team-friendly deal or on a more player-friendly deal for more money. What we do know is that Draymond Green does want a Steph Curry-like deal. Not in terms of money, but in terms of length. He wants a 3-year deal, not for as much money, but he wants that long-term commitment, whether it's from Golden State or from somewhere else. Have we seen the last of Draymond Green in Golden State, or do you think this is one of those scenarios where he's opting out of the player option to come back on a more team-friendly deal?
It's going to shock you when I say this. He's absolutely returning. And I think that's part of the Jordan Poole situation, though not totally. As I said, like, it is clear the Warriors still think that their championship window is open. And I guess you can say that because you have Steph Curry, and as long as Steph Curry is there and still a top 5 player in the NBA, that is the situation. I think it's going to sound crazy what I'm about to say. It's almost like the Warriors don't have a choice. You would figure after last season that Draymond was on his way out. The Warriors need Draymond more than Draymond needs the Warriors right now, because if he leaves, what are you going to replace him with in terms of keeping that championship window open? Because the first thing that you just mentioned, Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody are not ready. And not only are they not ready, even at the height of their powers, whatever those powers are, they are not what Draymond means to this team. Granted, he is not as good as he would have been in 2014, 2015, and 2016. 2015 and 2016. That's clear. He's not that same player, but he's still their best defender. Well, probably interior defender now best is Kevon Looney, but he's still arguably their best overall defender. He is clearly still their best playmaker. There's no if ands or buts about that. He is their facilitator on offense. And when you talk about the identity of Golden State, for as much as we know that Steph Curry is the engine that drives this team, their identity is Draymond Green, at least for sure on the defensive end. Like, this team goes as Draymond goes. Like, if Draymond is giving you a productive all-around effort, even without the stats, it is hard to defeat the Golden State Warriors. And the moment I saw that they traded Jordan Poole, the moment that I saw they want to go the veteran presence, because they're not bringing in Chris Paul with the idea of not contending. Whether you think Chris Paul helps you contend or not, you're not doing that unless you're thinking contention. Then it's that Draymond's returning. And I thought, quite frankly, when Bob Myers retired or walked away from the franchise, that it would be hard to bring back Draymond, obviously because of the personal relationship that they would have had over the years. But the Warriors have no choice but to bring back Draymond. What that contract is or what it looks like, I don't know, but he's coming back.
He's got to come back. I agree. If you're going to bring Draymond Green back and you want to trade Jordan Poole, you could have gotten better than Chris Paul. Is all I'm saying. You could have gotten better than Chris Paul. I'm almost positive you could have gotten better than Chris Paul. Let's stay in California, because while one guy is returning to California, it is very possible that we could be seeing the end of another guy's stint in California. And by God, I'm glad we're finally here. Paul George might be on his way out of the Clippers. What do you make of that?
It's shocking to me, to be quite frank, and because it is acknowledging that this has been a mistake, this pairing of people who cannot stay on the floor. Whether it's their fault or not, you would not have known that both men at the same time would have been so injury prone. I know usually people make mistakes, and that's fine. The hardest part, Dwayne, as I've always said, if you've heard me say this, is acknowledging that you've made a mistake. And I'm glad to see that the Clippers have acknowledged that this is a mistake. The only issue here, Dwayne, I'm not the biggest Paul George fan for so many reasons, which I'll leave off the show for now. My issue, even as much as I'm not high on Paul George as many people are, when you trade him here, you're getting back cents on the dollar. You're not getting back equal value for Paul George. And the best you can hope for is rotation players and picks. No one's given up a star of equal ability for Paul George. Those players are not on the market, especially not for off-injury guard like Paul George. And for as long as you have Kawhi Leonard there, you have to be telling yourself you are here for, you are looking at contention. You are looking for a championship. You're not having Kawhi Leonard here and looking at tanking. Especially as, Steve Ballmer's put in so much money. They're looking to open their new stadium. You want to make a big production of being in LA. You are trying to finally get out the Lakers shadow. Even if you've outperformed them for so many years, you're still in Lakers shadow. You're trying your best. I don't know that happens when you trade Paul George. And it's sad to say, because again, I'm not high on Paul George, and I get why you would want to move on, especially with his recent health issues. But granted that your other star, who's supposedly better, is playing even less games than Paul George, how do you go forward? When you trade that guy, you're not going to get back equal value. I can assure you of this, Dwayne. I do not know what the Clippers are going to do, because your best case scenario is first round picks. And as we mentioned just now, young players are not ready to win a title. What are you doing with these first? What are you going to do going forward if you're trading Paul George? And the draft is going on as we speak, so you're not trading for draft capital this year. The Clippers have found themselves in an absolute mess. You keep these guys, you're not going to contend because they're never on the floor. You trade them, you're getting back even lesser value. You're not getting back star quality. You're throwing yourself further in the hole.
Let's get one thing very clear. Let's get one thing very clear right now. right now. I want this to be crystal clear. I love Paul George. Paul George is nice. He's an amazing basketball player. I'm not going to go as far as Brandon Miller and say that he's the GOAT because he's far from that. Paul George is nice. Kawhi Leonard might be one of the greatest two-way players, if not the greatest two-way players, when healthy, the game has ever seen. Here's the deal. This match was doomed from the start. And it baffles me again, and I don't want to go back down this rabbit hole, but it baffles me that we sit here and we bash Kyrie Irving and we bashed Ben Simmons and we bashed James Harden.
Don't forget Anthony Davis.
And we bashed Kevin Durant for the failure that was the Brooklyn Nets. Yet we sit here year in and year out and we watch the Clippers fail year in and year out. Justin Marville, I don't know if you remember this, but when Kawhi Leonard got to LA, he did something Kawhi Leonard had never done. He was in a commercial. He showed off some personality. He got in his nice little New Balance car. And what was that? What was on that keychain, Justin Marville? It was a crown.
King of LA.
He was the new king of LA. Justin, how many championships have the LA Clippers won since Kawhi Leonard's been in LA? Zero.
We can push it back to how many championships they've won in their entire existence.
Finals has the Clippers been in? One. But guess who didn't play in that conference final series?
Oh yeah, he did.
Kawhi Leonard. So Kawhi Leonard's the king of LA, but he hasn't played in the conference finals, hasn't gotten his team to the finals, hasn't won a championship. And I'm supposed to sit here and think that the Brooklyn Nets trio, one of the biggest failures in the history of basketball? Are you kidding me? Kawhi Leonard and Paul George sold the city of Los Angeles and Clippers fans a dream. Clippers fans, you want to get out of the shadow of the Lakers? Win 18 championships. Oh, wait, you won't because your team sucks. I don't care where they play basketball. They can play basketball in Inglewood. They can play basketball in Compton. They can play basketball in Timbuktu for all I care. The Los Angeles Clippers are going nowhere. As for Paul George, sorry, pal. Someone has to go. And unfortunately, it's not going to be Kawhi because Kawhi has the city of Los Angeles, not the city of Los Angeles, excuse me. Kawhi Leonard has the Clippers front office, specifically Steve Ballmer, by the ball sack. And he runs the Clippers. He does. The Clippers do what Kawhi Leonard wants. If Kawhi Leonard don't want to play basketball, Kawhi Leonard don't play basketball. If Kawhi Leonard wants to sit up in the skybox and watch the Clippers suck for an entire season, he is more than able to do that. That is some master negotiation from Kawhi Leonard on his behalf and on his agent. But here's the deal. It is unfortunate that Paul George is the casualty in all this because, to be completely honest, they should get rid of both of them. They should blow it up. They should go back to being the no-name basketball team that no one cares about that they are, constantly picking in the lottery. The LA Clippers were sold a dream. Clipper fans were sold a dream, not just by Paul George, but by Kawhi Leonard. We sit here and we always want to talk about how Kevin Durant, I don't want to go back to this, but I have to. We sit here and we get on KD for picking Kyrie in Brooklyn. Well, can we get on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for picking each other for LA? Can we do that? Because we don't talk about the fact that Kawhi Leonard told the Clippers the only way he was going to the Clippers instead of the Lakers was if the Clippers got Paul George. We don't talk about that as much. He's like, that never comes up. Let's talk about that. Kawhi Leonard asked for Paul George, and they've won 0 championships. They've made it to 0 finals. They've been in 1 conference finals, and the 1 conference finals that they made it to, Kawhi Leonard didn't play. And I'm supposed to sit here and believe that this is a team that could be for a championship. And I'm supposed to sit here and feel bad for Clippers and Clippers fans because of what Kawhi Leonard's done. No, I feel bad for Paul George. If Paul George gets sent out of LA, it is Kawhi Leonard's fault. And if there's one man that should pay the moving expenses for the truck and the movers and to buy Paul George a new house wherever he ends up going, is Kawhi Leonard. Because if it wasn't for Kawhi Leonard, Paul George wouldn't have been in LA. Well, he would have been in LA, but he wouldn't have been a Clipper. He would have been a Laker. Paul George would be a champion if it weren't for Kawhi Leonard. And Paul George should sue Kawhi Leonard for emotional distress, and he should make Kawhi Leonard pay for the moving truck, the moving company, the movers, and the new house wherever he gets sent to, because Paul George should be a champion, and Paul George should have never been an LA Clipper. So have fun in Inglewood. You'll be by yourself, Kawhi, with no ACLs. with no laughter, with no humor in your cryo chamber, playing out there with Russell Westbrook and a bunch of nobodies. Have fun, buddy.
What I don't understand, right, are these supporting star players who continually think that being with somebody else not named LeBron James is actually better off. And Paul George is one, but the biggest one obviously is Kyrie Irving. I would figure that people should learn Kyrie Irving's mistake. I know you've seen Kyrie Irving publicly recant this and has gone on I Am Athlete, even more publicly to say I should never have left LeBron James, and is now even openly courting LeBron James. You had a chance, Paul George, to play with LeBron James, and you opted instead. You wanted Kawhi Leonard. Look where the hell that's got you.
The Hall of Very Good. It's where it's got him. The Hall of Very Good. Real quick, I don't know if I mentioned this, I'm going to mention it real quick. Brandon Miller did go second overall to the Charlotte Hornets.
Like Michael Jordan is gone, and you're still making these mistakes. Like, how are you still making
What's wrong
these?
With Brandon Miller? What do you want them to pick? They already got a guard. What are they supposed to do?
Pick another one. Pick a damn well another one. One that stays on the floor. Like, how many times are teams going to continually make this mistake and say, "Oh, we already got this position"? Yeah. Did the Portland Trailblazers mistake not teach anyone? Oh, we already got Clyde Drexler. Let's bypass this Michael Jordan fella. It's not working for you, Portland. How the hell did that work for you?
The KD segment was my favorite segment of the show. I was very excited. This is going to be my second favorite. Zion Williamson is in trouble with Mariah Mills. So much so that Adam Silver made a call to Elon Musk and had to get her off the app. Here's the deal. Justin Marville. Is Zion a bust?
He's certainly approaching that territory very, very, very quickly. Usually I'm not patient, but I want to be patient with Zion simply because he represented my Duke Blue Devils in college. So I'm going to give him one more year, right? But when you miss all of these games, you're equating to what? Missing 60% of your games in total as a number one overall pick. And then when we see you see the all-star potential, or he's made an all-star game already. You're not appearing in regular season games. You're not playing in playoff games. You're number one overall. And, like, the storylines behind you are not on the court, but who you're getting pregnant, who you're not getting pregnant, who you're paying for, who you're padding up. Like, this is crazy. Like, before we get to the Morant Mills nonsense, right? What really disappoints me in Zion, and I would hope that I am absolutely wrong with this take, is like it is almost as if you are not showing any level of accountability or responsibility for your own career. If it is as simple as keeping your weight down. And so I have to think that this is going far past just eating Burger King. That is stopping you from keeping your weight off. Like, I have to feel that your body type is such that you just can't, for whatever reason, keep your weight down, right? But Dwayne, it has to be simple, because how hard is this as an NBA player, with a nutritionist, with so many weight facilities, with so many training staff available, without you having to even pay a single cent at your availability, and you just cannot keep the weight off. I don't know. But then you're not taking care of your body. Like, let's look at LeBron James. LeBron James is a perfect, what's the word I'm looking for?
Example?
Not example. The perfect role model to look at. Okay. We have heard every single year LeBron James spends no less than $1 million on his body. Whether it's cryogenics or whatever not, he makes sure to keep his body. Yeah. As a number one overall pick, and you've already had your rookie extension, your max rookie extension, you have so much at your availability. Granted, New Orleans isn't the major market that you wanted to be in. You wanted to be in New York. We all know that. Yep. You can command so much money, and doing all you have to do is take care of your body, and you refuse to do this at a ridiculous level. But then you're not doing this, but what you're doing is... So why LeBron James should be your next great example is that look at the life that LeBron James has built for himself. And I'm not here to tell you that NBA players or professional athletes don't do what Zion did. It's just that Zion lives in the internet era where everything is out there, a social media era, because it can tell you so many.
Literally
Everything is out there because it can tell you players who've done way, way worse. It's just that social media was not in their era. Social media is here now. But, dude, keep it clean. Like, not keep it clean as in what you're doing, but keep your business out in people's streets. Like, how is an OnlyFans star outing everything about you? How are you impregnating somebody who has, again, obviously not Miranda Mills because she wished she was impregnated, but how have you impregnated somebody who does not reflect better on your brand? Look at Savannah James. My good friend Neil. We have a group chat, right, where we said the best thing LeBron James has ever done is not the 4 titles. It is not the 4 MVPs. It's not having the most points ever. It is marrying and having children for Savannah James. Savannah James is the GOAT of all athlete wives. The GOAT. I've said this, the GOAT. You want the best athlete wife in the world? Savannah James is it. She is the true GOAT, not LeBron James. Savannah James is the best James in that household, without a shadow of a doubt. But you are deciding to have a child for a woman who is out there publicly beating women in the streets and caught on film. Then you are wifing up another girl who is an OnlyFans star and has all of your business on Twitter. There was a situation where this woman tweeted over 3,000 times, and it is on record as saying it is the most lopsided side of communication, more so than the US reaching out to aliens. That is how bad it is that NASA reaching out to is the most lopsided form of communication. 3,000 tweets unresponded to is more than what NASA has done with alien life force that we don't know exists. I'm sorry I'm going on my Zion rap, but I thought so much more highly than rap. So I'm not prepared to label him a bust yet, but one more year of this madness doing Marcus, and I have no choice but to label him a bust.
Well, you're not going to label a bust. I am. Zion Williamson is a bust. Zion Williamson is a bust. He's up there with Anthony Bennett. He's up there with Kwame Brown. He's up there with Jamarcus Russell. He is a bust. What is a bust, Justin Marville? I'm glad you asked. According to the one and only Facebook felon, Germ, one half of Stuff About Sports, right here on the Give It a Shot Network, a bust is a player who does not give back what they were expected to give upon drafting. What was Zion Williamson expected to give upon his drafting in New Orleans? He was expected to get the New Orleans Pelicans one step closer to competing for and potentially winning their very first NBA championship. In 254 possible games, Justin, that's 8 playoff games, 246 regular season games. Zion's played 114. That's not even a season and a half of NBA basketball games. 114. Let me do some math for you really quickly. There are 4 rounds in the NBA. Yes? First round, semifinals, conference finals, NBA finals. If a player plays on a team where all 4 of those games go to a game 7, that's 28 playoff games plus 82 regular season games. That's 110 games. There is now a play-in. If you add the 2 games you could play in a play-in game, so let's say an NBA player plays on a team that plays all 82 games. He plays in the play-in, so he's got 2 more games, and he plays in 4 series. All 4 series go to 7 games. 112 games. Zion Williamson in his career has played 2 more than the most amount of games a single player could play in an NBA season from start to finish. Unless your name is McCall Bridges, because he played 83 games last season. So if you're McCall Bridges, it's 113. Here's the deal. Zion Williamson is a bust.
So you're saying, before you continue, you're saying then that Jimmy Butler almost surpassed Zion Williamson in this season. In this season, he almost surpassed
Zion Williamson. Jimmy Butler played almost as many games in this season alone than Zion Williamson has played in his career. That is exactly what I'm saying to you. Justin Marville. Zion Williamson is a bust. And you were on this show last year around this time, right before Zion got his extension. And we sat in and we said, should Zion get extended? And you said, yeah, he should. Because when he's healthy, this is what he does. And look, I understand that when he's healthy, he's one of the greatest players that the game's ever seen. The problem is he's never healthy. And we're getting to the point with Zion where it's not a health issue. He need to keep his hands to himself and stop fornicating with adult film stars. Keep your hands to yourself, Zion. You won't be in this mess. I cannot sit here and explain to you the sheer joy I felt inside of me getting on Twitter every day and seeing Zion's business be put out there. Like, it's insane. It was pure insanity. This man wanted her to move to New Orleans and live with him in New Orleans. Got her going to basketball games, sending her money. Like, what are we doing? Now, again, Adam Silver, look, she threatened to leak the tapes, and Adam Silver made the call to Elon and said, we can't let that happen.
So, yeah, shut that down.
Let's shut this down now. And Adam Silver, we all know you made the call. I 100% commend you for that, because that would have been bad for business if those tapes got leaked on Twitter.
But whose business? Because they could tell you her OnlyFans would have rocketed.
And bad for business. Zion Williamson is a bust. And it's time that we acknowledge that Zion Williamson is a bust, right? The same quickness that we have with some of these players to label them as great and to label them as superstars, the next face of the league, we need to have that same quickness when it comes to being a bust. When you are the number one overall pick in any sport, football, basketball, soccer, hockey, rugby, baseball, cricket, I don't care if you're playing softball. I don't care if you get drafted number one overall in the water polo league. I don't know if equestrian has a league, but if you get drafted number one overall in the equestrian, if you're a horse, I don't care what you do. If you are deemed the best player available of all the players, there are 60 picks. You're the first one off the board, and you give me 114 games in 3 years, you're a bust. When you didn't play in a single playoff game, you're a bust. Zion Williamson is a bust. And it doesn't matter where he is. He can be in New Orleans. He can be in LA, Sacramento, Golden State, Phoenix. He can be in Detroit. He can be in Houston. He can be in San Antonio. He can be in Dallas, Washington, Phoenix. He can be in Memphis. He can be in Miami, Orlando. I don't care where he goes. We can have an expansion. He can get sent to Seattle. They can put him in Vegas somewhere. I don't care if we had a team in San Diego. They can send him to Timbuktu. Zion Williamson is a bust. And it is time that we acknowledge that Zion Williamson is a bust. The same way that we were so quick to label Markelle Fultz as a bust. The same way we wanted to label Ben Simmons a bust. The same way we wanted to label Joel Embiid a bust. Now, two of those players, in Fultz and Embiid, they've resurrected their careers. They've beaten the bust allegations. Ben Simmons has not. Zion Williamson, welcome to the Sports Bust Hall of Fame, buddy. You're here. So you, Mariah, and your Instagram model baby mama, you guys can get yourselves enshrined into the Hall of Fame, and then you can go on about your merry way. Because here's the deal. First of all, she gonna find her way back on Twitter. And those tapes are coming.
I'm praying. Don't.
Those tapes are coming.
Don't play with my feelings. Don't play. Don't play with my emotions, Marcus. Don't play with them. I did not see that one coming.
I didn't either. It just happened. It just rolled off the tongue. Oh, that was good. That was good.
Sayon.
That was good.
Sayon.
Okay.
This is one where we needed Neil. Neil will be crazy.
That's getting clipped. Good one. That was a good one. That just came to me. I don't know why I did that. Okay. There's one more thing we have to talk about before we get out of here. As we know, excuse me again. The Trailblazers drafted Scoot Henderson with the 3rd overall pick. It was announced earlier today that Damian Lillard officially wants out. He does not want to be involved in the youth movement in Portland, and he wants to be traded. But the Blazers just used 3rd pick on Scoot Henderson. So what are you anticipating over the next week or so as far as this Damian Lillard Portland Trailblazers saga? Do you anticipate a moving of Damian Lillard? Do you think the Portland Trailblazers are going to stick? Like, what should we expect out of Portland over the next week or so?
I'm sure you were on that episode when I told you will know what direction Portland is going depending on what they did with the number 3 overall pick.
Sure.
If they had traded it, then you would know that they are sticking with Damian Lillard. But the moment they used it, and especially on a guard, like you use it on another guard, you're not going to pair Dame Lillard as Scoot Henderson for next season and expect to make the playoffs. Like Damian Lillard has come out already and said he's not on a youth movement, and B, they're 2 guards.
Yeah.
So the reality is, I don't want to say they've drafted his replacement, but essentially they're building it all over. And I expect in the next week or so, we're going to find Damian Lillard either in the Miami Heat or the Boston Celtics. Now, what's hurt Dame is that he doesn't have a no-trade clause, but I do think that they're going to do right by him. Dame has already come out publicly and said he would never want to play in Boston. And I can imagine for obvious reasons, as you mentioned earlier, the fan base is what it is. So, I mean, the hurtful thing, though, that's not the best thing for the franchise, because I told you before, in terms of when you look across the league, Boston's the only team that can give them he's not going to be as good as Dame Lillard. Obviously, you're taking cents on the dollar. But Boston's the only team who can give you a star-level player and the draft capital that you're looking to think. So you'll have an easy reset in terms of having Jaylen Brown, Scoot Henderson, and a bunch of picks. Like, you can have that. That's an easy jump start to your reset. But I think they're going to do right by Dame, and Dame doesn't want to go to Boston. So I suspect what you're going to end up seeing is Tyler Hero. I don't know if you're going to throw in another player and then a whole host of draft capital going forward. And I think you're going to see Dame Lillard in Miami. But I don't see a scenario where, no, with Dame Lillard coming out, that Portland's going to start with Dame on their roster for 2023-2024 season, because this is essential. When you draft Scoot Henderson, you are signaling the rebuild.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And we've kind of talked about Dame going to the Heat for the past couple of weeks now. And there was even a moment in time where the Blazers were thinking about trading for Bam, because Dame has on record said that Bam is one of his closest friends in the league, which, of course, only fueled the rumors of Dame heading to South Beach. I would be shocked if this time next week Damian Lillard is still in Portland. I think if come this time next week Damian Lillard is still in Portland, we're going to have a serious conversation about the potential of whether or not. And I know the season is a ways away, and this could be a bit dramatic. But if Damian Lillard is still in the Portland Trailblazers come this time next week, if he's not gone by July 1st, we could have a serious conversation about whether or not Damian Lillard is going to play next season, because he wants out. He has made it. He has taken the F them kids approach. And that's no disrespect to Scoot. It's no disrespect to Anthony Simons. But this is where Dame is at this point in his career. Damian Lillard recognizes that he wants to do it his way. He wants to win a championship or bring a championship to Portland. But if the Portland Trailblazers are going to consistently not do what is necessary to build a championship contender around him, well, then Dame's going to go elsewhere. Now, if you're a fan of Damian Lillard, if you're a fan of the Portland Trailblazers, if you're a fan of basketball, you recognize that, hey, this should have been a long time ago if you're Damian Lillard making these kind of requests. But you do have to respect Dame for wanting to do it for Portland, the team that drafted him. Damian Lillard is undeniably the greatest Portland Trailblazer the franchise has ever seen. I think that's hands down. And that's no disrespect to Clyde Drexler. There's no disrespect to Bill Walton, but he's better than them. He's the all-time leading scorer for the franchise. And I think when you look at what he did, not just for the team, but for the city of Portland, he is the greatest Portland Trailblazer of all time. And his jersey will be up in the rafters in Portland when it's all said and done, whether he retires a Blazer or not. It is time for the next chapter. It is time for the Portland Trailblazers to swallow their pride and move on from Dame. But here's what the Blazers are doing. The Blazers are doing what every franchise does with every long tenured veteran. And I hate it so much in sports. We see it in football. We see it in basketball. We see it in baseball. It's the worst. What the Blazers are doing is despite what they're doing is they know what Dame wants. Because here's the deal. Damian Lillard is not a guy that's just going to say he wants out without having told the Blazers first. Damian Lillard isn't just saying all this stuff now without having – this isn't a surprise. The powers that be in Portland know that this is what Dame has wanted for years. And the powers that be in Portland have made conscious decision time and time and time again to not do what is necessary to compete for a championship around Damian Lillard. And now what they're doing is this. They are forcing Damian Lillard's hand so that the narrative can say, oh, Damian Lillard's turning his back on Portland, as opposed to the Trailblazers are moving on from Damian Lillard. There is nothing wrong if you are the Portland Trailblazers in taking the Spurs approach with DeJounte Murray last season. DeJounte Murray, by the way, much younger basketball player, not nearly as tenured for the Spurs as Dame has been for the Blazers. And what did the Spurs say? Bro, we love you. We want to see you do great things. We want to see you be great. Unfortunately, right now, you can't do that here in San Antonio. Let's send you somewhere else where you can. Hence, now him being sent to Atlanta last season. Why can't the
Well, they also spun – don't be fooled by San Antonio. They spun the narrative there. That was all like, we want Victor Wembanyama. You are going to win us too many games. We are about tanking. We cannot have good players on this roster.
But the fact still remains, though, that they had the goal in sight and they dedicated themselves to that. The Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, they were comfortable being mediocre for too long. Like,
there's an old saying, and I don't want to butcher it. And so rather than not butcher it, I'm just not going to. There's a saying, it's like you don't know your.
I understand you, but the issue with Portland is that, again, they told you they didn't have the ability to bring people in via free agency. And rather than, like, sorry, I'm not against extremes, but when you're a team that can't attract free agents, you have to be an extreme. It's either that you trade to go all in or just avoid mediocrity and just blow it all up. And for too long, they were comfortable saying we got Dame Lillard and we're just going to put a mediocre product around it. And I sympathize with the team because they are not a destination that people are going to run to. So, like, their only way was to trade, but they just never had that ability. So, for me, I thought years ago it was time to say, look, we moved on from CJ McCollum. The moment they moved on from CJ and couldn't get better, I thought then was the time to say, all right, look, we're not going to win a championship with Damian Lillard as our best player. Stop living in mediocrity and just be completely bad. And that's what, like, look at the San Antonio Spurs. For them, it's like, you're very, very good. And if we can't be very, very good, we're not going to live in mediocrity. We're going to be very, very bad to get the player that we want. And they took and got Victor Wembanyama.
Sure. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in Portland over the next week or so. And like I said, if he's still there in Portland after a week, we're going to be talking about the potential of Damian Lillard not suiting up to play basketball until
they're going to trade him. I think they're going to do right by him.
Sure. And they should because he deserves it. This has been a stacked show. It's gone for an hour and a half. We've had some moments. Some of them were playing.
Ooh, I did not see that last moment coming. No, I didn't.
That last one's getting clipped. So to the fam, I apologize. When you're witty like that, it just comes to you, and you just got to do it. The good Lord's not through with me yet. But, Justin, can you please let everybody know where they can find you in this, Justin?
Well, before they find me, please like, subscribe, just like everything that's coming on here from Go Talk with Marcus. Extremely talented guy. Been doing this for almost 3 years now, and follow the rest of his castmates and Give Us a Shot Network. And when you're done there, just come over to the real thisJUSTin, and it will be just shortly the only thisJUSTin. Put the hashtag because you do not want Max Kellerman, who is likely on his way out of ESPN now, unfortunately for him. But yeah, hashtag thisJUSTin. We are on every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on YouTube primarily and only on YouTube. For our short form content, you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on Twitter. That's hashtag thisJUSTin. Please put in the hashtag you don't want Max Kellerman. And neither does ESPN, apparently.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have Justin on the show. Please continue to subscribe to the Give Us a Shot Network. There's a lot of great things happening across the network. You've got The Divide with Mike and Corey. You've got JT and the Don with the JT and the Don All Sports podcast. And, of course, you have Burton Journal with stuff about sports. It is my understanding that next Tuesday, Bert will be out on some business. So I will be trying my best to fill Bert's shoes with the germ next Tuesday on stuff about sports. So make sure you tune in for that. Please subscribe to the network so you don't miss any future episodes. You can check out any past episodes. There will be an WNBA episode next Friday because that's what we do. Martin Stories will be back at the Basketball Society, hopefully. And as I've said every time I mention the WNBA, if you don't like the WNBA, I don't know what to tell you, because unless Dame gets traded and there's enough news to talk about, that's all I'm going to be talking about this summer. If you don't like that, find something else to do. I'll see you in September for football. And remember, you're just a Neanderthal, and that's what's wrong with you. And then there's something wrong with you, and that's okay. If you don't like basketball, just say you don't like basketball. Also, July 1st is a Saturday, so next Saturday, I will be going live with my guy Sal Vassallo to talk all things Money in the Bank. We'll give our Money in the Bank predictions. We'll talk about why Logan Paul being in the match is a disgusting move. And I'll cry because Jey Uso turned his back on his cousin Roman Reigns and he doesn't acknowledge his tribal chief anymore.
I just want to say that the Attitude Era is the greatest era of wrestling of all time. I just want to put that out there.
I don't disagree with you. The Attitude Era was great. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be double duty next week. It is going to be very, very, very busy on the network, as it always is. So please make sure you're subscribed so don't miss out on any of the episodes. Oh, almost forgot. I'm so sorry. High Spot Podcast. Also, they're here as well. I forgot. I apologize. I didn't mean anything by it. I just slipped my mind. They're here as well. You can also check them out on the network as well. So for Justin of the hashtag thisJUSTin Sports Show, a show that I will soon own. We're still working out the kinks on that. This is Marcus, the Go Talker Marcus, signing off. Thank you guys for watching. You guys enjoy the rest of the draft. You guys enjoy the rest of your life. You guys have a great weekend. And as always, enjoy the rest of your life.